Hey folks, welcome to week 15 of DMD 330 social media. How is everybody doing? All right, this week we are wrapping up our social media campaign for our charitable event. Let's take a look at the syllabus and see what we got going on this week. Okay, so week 15, normally we would have met on May 4th, 6th, and 8th, and we are finishing up your digital displays, meaning your digital billboards that you were working on. Now remember, you had 3 different sizes of billboards to choose from. You only had to do one of them, but if you did all 3, you would get extra credit for doing the additional 2, so certainly whatever your team would like to do. So you guys should be wrapping those up right now and getting those uploaded. Okay, now the thing we specifically want to go over this week is that for your final presentation, which is due next week, you're going to include everything that's been done on the charitable campaign, but we're going to move our digital displays, our digital billboards, into some mock-ups, and I'm going to introduce you to those in a minute. But let's talk about the schedule for a second. So again, this week, May 4th, 6th, and 8th, you are finishing up the digital displays. If we go over here and take a look at Canvas, and go to assignments, you'll see that down here the digital displays are due on the 8th, so make sure you get those uploaded so that they can be reviewed. Now if you get one of them uploaded and then are still working on the other 2 for the extra credit and you get those uploaded a little bit later, that's fine with me. They're extra credit. I'm happy to see them one way or the other, but just get one of them at least uploaded today, and if you're only doing the one, well, that's fine too. Now you'll see that next week, which is week 16, is not a full week. This is our last full week of the semester. It's been a long, strange semester, and here we are towards the end. So next week on Wednesday, May 13th, is when your final presentation of your entire charitable campaign is due. In a minute, we're going to go over what that's going to look like. But first, let's go back and take a look at how to use mock-ups for your digital displays. Okay, so back over here to your semester project. Digital displays, like I said, you guys are finishing those up, and you can upload them as flats, meaning just your finished images. Preferably, be sure to change those out to PDFs or JPEGs or something that can be easily uploaded. Now, in the week 15 folder under Files, you're going to find these 3 folders here. So under week 15, under Files on Canvas, there are 3 folders of what we call mock-ups. So I have 10 poster billboard mock-ups, bus stop billboard mock-ups, and a street billboard mock-up. So what are mock-ups? Well, let's take a look over here in Photoshop. We'll look at what they are. So inside each of these are a variety of Photoshop files. Now you do not have to know Photoshop particularly well to be able to use these. What mock-ups are, and let's open one up, these are real-world photographs that are generally nicely photographed. You can see this one has some really beautiful colors and some effects attached to it. And what they do is they have what's called smart objects built into them, which allows you to replace this placeholder image here with your image. Now each of the mock-ups that I provided you are different sizes and shapes, just like the 3 different sizes and shapes of digital displays you were to design. So each of those will fit into one of these. You just have to sort of hunt around and take a look. These are super useful in that as we can go through them, you can see that there's different types. So if you did more than one, you can certainly put the horizontal one here and the vertical one here, or maybe 2 horizontal ones, however you would like. You choose the one that you like. These are all, like I said, really nicely photographed scenes that have these mock-ups, and I'm going to show you in a minute how to replace the temporary one with the full one. So this is one set, these here, and then in the other folder, there's just this one, which is this one here, which is just a bus stop digital display. And then in the third folder, there's also just one similar in shape to the bus stop one, this one here. So of the 3, the first folder has about 10 different options, so you can certainly pick out the ones you like. Now, how do these work? Well, pretty simple. You open any of them up into Photoshop, and when you open them up, here we are in Photoshop. This is what you're going to see, so this is just the horizontal one. And you'll see that over here in the Layers palette, that it has the background image, which is this here, right, which is just the actual photograph. And then there are some effects that have been added, you know, like these streaking colors and some lighting effects. So that's in the second layer. You can see those get turned off and on. And then the top one is what we call a smart layer. Now the smart layer is what you're going to replace. That is this section right here that says poster billboard mockups. So I'll show you how to replace that in a second. So first of all, one thing to pay attention to is that all of these from this particular company have the same measurement at the bottom here, 2100 by 1400 pixels. Ignore that. It's inaccurate. You actually have to see what the size is before you know what size to crop your image to get it to fit, right? So for example, how do we do this? Well, if you look over here in the layers palette, you'll see that on the thumbnail for the layer that says replace your image here, if you double click on that tiny little icon, it opens this up into its very own window, right? And so this is what you're going to replace. This is where you will sort of copy and paste your image. Now again, they're telling you that it's 2100 by 1400, meaning this shape, but that's not accurate. How do I know it's not accurate? Well, if you go up to image and go to image size, you'll see that it actually says it's 6000 by 2480. It's slightly longer in terms of being a rectangle. So again, go to image size, and that is the ratio that you're going to crop your digital display to. Now that doesn't mean it has to be that size, it has to be that ratio. So for example, let's say this is your billboard. I know it's not a billboard, it's just a photograph of a dog. When you put it up there into Photoshop, whether you have exported your billboard as a PDF or a high-res JPEG or whatever, simply go to the crop tool and then up here under ratio, make sure you're grabbing the one that just says ratio, not any of these predetermined ratios. Then you're going to punch in the size that you know it actually is, and we just determined it was 6000 by 2480, and then I can go ahead and crop it to that size. So now I know it's the right size. So now over here on this tab, I've got my billboard, and then I've got the placeholder billboard. And then back here, we've got the mockup. Now, because this layer is a smart object, when I paste my billboard into here, it's going to magically go over to the mockup. Let's see what happens. So first I have to copy and paste my image. So first thing to do is Control A or Command A, which will select your entire image here in Photoshop. Notice the marching ants going all the way around the outside. That is telling me that all of it has been selected. And then Control C or Command C for copy. That now copies it onto my pasteboard. And then go over to your mockup here, the pullout from it, and then simply Command or Control V, and that drops it into place. Now I can set it into place. I can resize it to be the right size. There we go. Hit return, and now it's good to go. Now, before you do anything, make sure you hit save. So do Control or Command S, save, and now what the saving process does is it takes your billboard that you just put into the call out for the mockup here, and it will shove it into your mockup. Let's take a look. Boom, there it is. See how it just immediately kind of shunted into there? And you'll see that the lighting effects are applied to it, and it fits into the scene nicely. So they all work exactly the same way. Open up the Photoshop document, double click on the smart object, open up the pop-out, paste your graphic in there, resize it as necessary. Remember, don't squish or stretch your graphic. Make sure it's the right proportion. Then make sure you hit save, and then it will magically appear over here in your mockup. They all work exactly the same. All of these do. And they're pretty straightforward to do, so certainly play around with them. So you're going to put your digital display or displays, if you did all three of them, into whichever mockups you think work best for your choices, and you're going to save those as well. Now, these are Photoshop documents. Remember, these are PSD files. We don't want to submit PSD files to Canvas, so make sure that you are saving these out. Go to Save As, and save them out as, for example, high resolution JPEGs would work great. So do that. Okay, so that is it for this week, is you're going to finish up your digital displays, finish up your billboards, put them into some mock-ups, make them look cool and interesting. And then the next thing to turn our attention to is next week, which is not a full week, it is just our final week. We are going to turn in your final presentation. Now, originally in the syllabus, it said that it was anywhere from the 11th to the 14th. I am going to have everybody turn everything in on the 13th, which is the Wednesday of next week. Now, there will be one more video next week going over the final wrap-up, but I just want to show you this now so you can start thinking about it. Back here in Canvas under Assignments, you'll see Final Presentation of your charitable campaign due on the 13th. If you click on that, you'll see that there are very clear instructions on what your final presentation has to include. So generally, we are going to make a professional presentation. You can use either PowerPoint, Keynote, or Apple Slides, which is going to present all of your final deliverables from your company's charitable campaign. This is going to be presented as an after-the-fact presentation to your boss, which in this case is me. So in the real world, if a marketing team had worked on a project when the project is over with and it has been finished, a lot of times you would do sort of an after-the-fact or a post-mortem presentation where you would say, well, this is the project we just worked on, this is everything we did, this is how well it went, and here's our feedback on it. So you're going to go over the details of your charitable campaign, and you're going to write a little bit of a reflection on your team's process and the success that you had in implementing your deliverables. What went well? What could have gone better? What did you learn from the experience, etc., etc. What must be included in your presentation? A brief explanation of the local company that you worked with, a brief explanation of the charitable event that you worked with, a brief explanation of how your chosen company participated in your charity. Now, these first three, of course, you've already done previously. You might have to do some rewording, but you have this all written anyway from previous deliverables. So obviously don't reinvent the wheel here. Go back to deliverables you have already completed and just rework them to fit this presentation. Next, of course, you have to show all of your social media content, which includes all of the Facebook content, all of the Instagram, all of the Twitter, as well as the 3 online display ads. You are going to include your audio recordings of all your radio ads, not the written scripts, the audio recordings. You can embed audio into PowerPoint or Keynote or Apple Slides, or you can simply provide me with links to a SoundCloud account that has all 3 of your radio ads. Don't just plop them in there on a slide. Make sure to put some explanation in there as well. Remember, there's a 15-second, a 30-second, and a 60. You're also going to include your digital display ads in mock-up format that we just went over. And then lastly, and this is the bit of new writing that you have to do for this presentation, you are going to write a brief reflection on your team's process, what you guys learned while working on the campaign, and how successful you think it was. Be professional. Make sure you are writing in professional language. You put some thought into this. Be sure to pay attention to craft, spelling, and attention to detail. Or again, this is as if you were presenting it to your art director or your supervisor or your boss. So make sure it looks and sounds that way. Be sure to include supporting graphics and images as needed to make your presentation engaging and interesting. Now again, I'm going to go over this again in the beginning of next week, but since it's due next Wednesday on the 13th, I figured I'd go over it here in case you guys want to get working on it early, which might be a good idea. All right, so one final week after this, if you have any questions or thoughts or concerns and you need anything, be sure to email me or drop into my online office hours. And I hope you're all doing well and taking good care of yourself. I will talk to you soon.